Hello and welcome to Bounding into Comics. My name is John Trent. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounding into Comics. And today I got a story about the libel lawsuit that Johnny Depp had filed against The Sun, specifically Group Newspapers Ltd, and their executive editor, Dana Wootton. So Justice Andrew Nichol ruled in favor of The Sun and their parent company, Group Newspapers Ltd, after Johnny Depp filed a lawsuit against the company and its executive editor, Dan Wootton. Depp filed the lawsuit in response to an article published by The Sun in April 2018, whose headline read, quote, "Gone potty, how can J.K. Rowling be genuinely happy casting wife-beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?" In a 129-page decision, Justice Nichol, quote, found that the great majority of alleged assaults of Miss Heard by Mr. Depp have been proved to the civil standard, bearing in mind what has been said about the evidence necessary to satisfy that standard when serious allegations are an issue. However, in a section discussing Mr. Depp's record or non-record for violence, Nichol wrote, quote, "There is no evidence that Mr. Depp has any convictions for violence in the UK, in the USA, or in any other jurisdiction." He added, quote, "In the course of his evidence, he was questioned about a number of episodes when he was said to have been violent, either to property or to people. I shall refer to these briefly, but I cannot say that I did not find any of them to be of any great assistance in my task." Also of interest is that while describing an alleged violent attack by Johnny Depp against Amber Heard over one of Depp's tattoos, Nichol accepted the description of Johnny Depp as a, quote, monster. He explained, "I have already said that I accept that Mr. Depp did refer to the monster. That expression was not a figment of Miss Heard's imagination. I accept her evidence that Mr. Depp used the term to refer to that part of his personality. When affected by drink and or drugs, he would do things which he would not otherwise do, and of which he might have no recollection afterwards." Nichol would conclude his opinion on this incident writing, quote, "Seen in isolation, the evidence that Mr. Depp assaulted Miss Heard on this occasion might not be sufficient. However, taken with the evidence as a whole, I find that it did occur." Nichol would go on to claim that he did not believe Depp's characterization of Amber Heard as a gold digger. Nichol specifically pointed to Heard allegedly donating $7 million that she received from her divorce settlement. He wrote, "She was, according to this scenario, nothing more than a gold digger. I have, in the course of this judgment, given reasons why I do not accept this characterization of Miss Heard. Looking at the evidence as a whole, I come to the same conclusion." He would later write, "I recognize that there were other elements to the divorce settlement as well, but her donation of the $7 million to charity is hardly the act one would expect of a gold digger." Nichol went on to claim that he accepted that, quote, "Miss Heard's allegations had a negative effect on her career as an actor and activist." He cited Heard's witness testimony in March, where she said she has, quote, "been subjected to a campaign of targeted online abuse on social media, as well as online petitions calling for me to be removed from any future sequel to Aquaman and from my association with L'Oreal. This has not been limited to my professional and commercial projects. It has also been aimed at what is most important to me, my humanitarian work, including my partnership with the United Nations and other non-governmental organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union and many others, and the important work these organizations do." Nichol wrote, "This part of Miss Heard's evidence was not challenged either. I accept it." He would then conclude, "I accept that the defendants have shown that the words they published were substantially true in the meanings I have held them to bear." In the conclusion and summary section of the 129 decision, Nichol concluded that this claim is dismissed. He elaborated, Johnny Depp has not succeeded in his action for libel, although he has proved the necessary elements of his cause of action in libel. The defendants have shown that what they published, in the meaning which I have held the words to bear, was substantially true." The justice continued, "I have reached these conclusions having examined in detail the 14 incidents on which the defendants rely, as well as the overarching considerations which Johnny Depp submitted I should take into account. In those circumstances, Parliament has said that a defendant has a complete defense. It has not been necessary to consider the fairness of the article or the defendant's malice because those are immaterial to the statutory defense of truth." One of Johnny Depp's lawyers, Jenny Afia of Schillings International LLP, responded to Nichol's ruling, saying, "This decision is as perverse as it is bewildering." Afia added, "Most troubling is the judge's reliance on the testimony of Amber Heard and corresponding disregard of the mountain of counter evidence from police officers, medical practitioners, her own former assistant, other unchallenged witnesses, and an array of documentary evidence which completely undermined the allegations point by point." One of Amber Heard's lawyers, Elaine Charlson Bredehoft of Charlson Bredehoft Cohen and Brown PC, stated, "For those of us present for the London High Court trial, this decision and judgment are not a surprise. Very soon we will be presenting even more voluminous evidence in the U.S. We are committed to obtaining justice for Amber Heard in the U.S. court and defending Ms. Heard's right to free speech." A spokesperson for The Sun stated that victims of domestic abuse, quote, "must never be silenced, and we thank the judge for his careful consideration and thank Amber Heard for her courage in giving evidence to the court." As Amber Heard's lawyer, Elaine Charlson Bredehoft, alluded to, Johnny Depp still has a $50 million defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard over her writing of an op-ed for the Washington Post titled, quote, "Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and face our culture's wrath. That has to change." That lawsuit claims Heard, quote, "purported to write from the perspective of a public figure representing domestic abuse and claimed that she felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak when she spoke up against sexual violence." The lawsuit adds, "The op-ed depended on the central premise that Ms. Heard was a domestic abuse victim and that Mr. Depp perpetrated domestic violence against her." The lawsuit goes on to deny the allegations that Johnny Depp abused Amber Heard, saying, quote, "Mr. Depp never abused Ms. Heard. Her allegations against him were false when they were made in 2016. They were part of an elaborate hoax to generate positive publicity for Ms. Heard and advance her career." They described the op-ed's characterization of Johnny Depp as, quote, "categorically and demonstrably false." The lawsuit also states Heard's allegations were repudiated by law enforcement eyewitnesses and surveillance camera footage. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention as a news story. I don't think I'm going to provide my opinion on it, as I don't feel like I'm fully qualified to do that. I've only really been following this as the news story. I haven't seen all of the evidence that Justice Nichol has seen, but I do find some of his, so I guess I'm gonna provide a little bit of opinion here. I do find some of his conclusions a little interesting based on the evidence he provides in this 129 page ruling, specifically that part where he says here, where he goes through and talks about the each separate incident, each of the 14 separate incidents. On incident 1, when he's talking about the tattoo, he says, "Seen in isolation, the evidence that Mr. Depp assaulted Ms. Heard on this occasion might not be sufficient. However, taken with the evidence as a whole, I find that it did occur." Maybe my understanding of logic is flawed here, but that just seems really suspect to me that you would say that you don't find evidence for it, but based on other evidence unrelated to that specific incident, you would find that it did occur. That seems really strange coming from a justice. So I'm a little suspect of that. And then if you look at some of his other things where he talks about some of these other incidences here. So if you look at incident 3, so just kind of to provide some information on this incident, it occurred in June 2013, and it's described as the Hicksville incident, and it supposedly took place in late May or early June 2013. It's basically referring to a email that Amber Heard wrote to herself dated June 11th, and it talks about Johnny Depp being like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type personality, and it's referring to a room being destroyed. She calls it as she says, "The hangover the morning after is just as bad as the full-on disco bloodbath. I've come to expect you live in a world of enablers you cut out and resent. Whether you realize it or not, everyone who isn't an enabler, I can make a clear distinction as to who falls into which category with complete ease." And so regarding this incident, Justice Nichol says that in the course of the argument, Mr. Depp caused significant damage to the trailer. Ms. Sexton could see that the damage was more than a broken light fixture, which Mr. Depp admitted damaging. I accept her evidence. The argument and the damage to property are symptomatic of Mr. Depp's manner when the monster side of his personality was dominant. I also accept the evidence of Ms. Heard that another aspect of the monster was that Mr. Depp physically assaulted her as she described. So to me, it just seems like he's accepting the evidence of Amber Heard and Miss Sexton, which are just two witnesses, over Johnny Depp's description of that encounter. So to me, that just sounds like a he said, she said ruling, and it's really interesting that he would accept that evidence instead of calling it into question. So those are kind of the issues that I have with the way he words this ruling. It just seems that it's a lot of he said, she said, and the justice decides to side with the she said over the he said. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here in Virginia with the $50 million lawsuit against Amber Heard rather than this libel lawsuit that was waged against Sun. So let me know what you think about this lawsuit and Justice Nichol's ruling. You can leave a comment in the comment section below. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding into Comics. I'll have another video for you tomorrow.